What I'm reading today is how it works, and we are on step 2. I want to try to make it to 6, just not no to 7. So here we go. Step 2, how it works. Chapter 4. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The second step is necessary if we expect to achieve ongoing recovery. The first step leaves us with a need to believe in something that can help us with our powerlessness, uselessness, and helplessness. The first step has left a vacuum in our lives. We need to find something to fill that void. That this is the purpose of the second step. Some of us didn't take this step seriously at first. We passed over it with a million of concern, only to find the next steps would not work until we worked step 2. Even when we admitted that we needed help with our drug problem, many of us would not admit to the need of faith into sanity. We have a disease, progressive, incurable, and fatal. One way or another, we went out and brought our destruction on the time payment plan. All of us, from the junkie snatching purses to the sweet little old lady hitting 2 or 3 doctors for legal prescriptions, have one thing in common. We seek our destruction a bag at a time. If a few pills at a time, or a bottle at a time, until we die. This is at least part of the insanity of addiction. The price may seem higher for the addict who prostitutes for a fix than it is for the addict who merely lies to a doctor. Ultimately, both pay for their disease with their lives. Insanity is repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results. Many of us realize when we get to the program that we have gone back time again and again, using, even though we knew that we were destroying our lives. Insanity is using drugs day after day, knowing that only physical and mental destruction comes when hold on, I lost my comes when we use. The most obvious insanity of the disease of addiction is the exception to use drugs. Ask yourself this question: do I believe it would be insane to walk up to someone and say, May I please have a heart attack or fatal accident? If you can agree that this would be an insane thing, you should have no problem with the second step. In this program, the first thing we do is to stop using drugs. At this point, we begin to feel the pain of living without drugs or anything to replace them. The pain forces us to seek a power greater than ourselves that can relieve our obsession to use. The process of coming to believe is similar for most addicts. Most of us lacked a working relationship with a higher power. We began to develop this relationship by simply admitting to a possibility of a great power greater than ourselves. Most of us have no trouble admitting that addiction have become a destructive force in our lives. Our best efforts resulted in ever greater destruction and despair. At some point, we realized that we needed to help of some power greater than our addiction. Our understanding of a higher power is up to us. No one is going to decide for us. We can call it the group, the program, or we can call it God. The only guidelines are that His power be loving, caring, and greater than ourselves. We don't have to be religious to accept this idea. The point is that we open our minds to believe. We may have difficulty with this, but by keeping an open mind, sooner or later we find that the help we need. We taught and listened to others and saw other people recovering, and they told us that what was working for them. We began to see evidence of some power that could not be fully explained. Confronted with this evidence, we began to accept the existence of a power greater than ourselves. We can use this power long before we understand it. As we see coincidence in miracles happening in our lives, acceptance becomes trust. We grow to feel comfortable with our higher power as a source of strength. As we learn to trust this power, we begin to overcome our fear of life. The process of coming to believe restores us to insanity. The strength to move into action comes from this belief. We need to accept this step to start on the road to recovery. When our belief has grown, we are ready for step 3. Let me give me something to drink. Step 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. At Addicts, we turn our will and our lives over many times to a destructive power. Our will and our lives were controlled by drugs. We were trapped by our need for instant gratification that drugs gave us during that time, or total being. Body, mind, and spirit was dominated by drugs. For a time, it was pleasurable. Then the epithelium began to wear off, and we saw the ugly side of addiction. We found that the higher our drugs took us, the lower they brought us. We faced two choices. Either we suffered the pain with the withdrawal or took more drugs. For all of us, the day came when we were no longer a choice. We had to use. Having given our will and our lives to our addiction, in utter desperation, we looked for another way in the context, the care of God as we understood Him. This is a giant step. We don't have to be religious. Anyone can take this step. All that is required is willingness. All that is essential is that we open the door to a power greater than ourselves. Our concept of God comes not from dogma, but from what we believe and from that what works for us. Many of us understand God to be simply whatever force keeps us clean. The right to a God of our understanding is total and without the catches, because we have this right. It is necessary to be honest about our belief. If we are to grow spiritually, we found that all we needed to do was try. When we gave our best effort, the program worked for us as it worked for countless others. The third step does not say we turn our will and our lives to the care of God. It says we made a decision to turn our will to our lives to the care of God as we understood Him. We made that decision. It was not made for us by the drugs, our families, a probation officer, judge, therapist, or doctor. We made it. For the first time since that first high, we had made a decision for ourselves. The word decision implies action. This decision is based on faith. We have only to believe that the miracle that we see working in the lives of clean addicts can happen to any addict with the desire to change. We simply realize there is a force of spiritual growth that can help us become more tolerant, patient, and useful in helping others. Many of us have said, "Take my will in my life, guide me to my recovery, show me how to live." The the relief the the relief of letting of the third step prayer, guys. Relief of letting go and letting God keep us helps us to live up a life that is worth living. Surrounding to the will of our higher power gets easier with daily practice. When we honestly try, it works. Many of us start our day with a simple request for guidance from our higher power. All through, we know that turning it over works. We may still take our will and life back. We may even get angry because God permits it. At times during our recovery, the decision to ask for God's help is our greatest source of strength and courage. We cannot make this decision often enough. We surrender quickly and let the God of our understanding take care of us. At first, our heads reeled with the decision of questions. What will happen when I turn my life over? Will I become perfect? We may have been more realistic than this. Some of us had to turn to an experience in a member and ask, "What was it like for you?" The answer will vary from member to member. Most of us feel open-mindedness, willingness, and surrender are the keys to this step. We have surrendered our will and our lives to the care of a power greater than ourselves. If we are true and sincere, we will notice a change for the better. Our fears are lessened and faith begins to grow as we learn the true meaning of surrender. We are no longer fighting fear, anger, guilt, self-pity, or depression. We realize that the power that brought us to this program is still with us and will continue to guide us if we allow it. We are slowly beginning to lose the paralyzing fear of hopelessness. The proof of this step is shown in the way we live. We have come to enjoy living clean and want more to the good things that the NA Fellowship holds for us. We know now that we cannot pause in our spiritual program. We want all that we can get. We are now ready for our first honest self-approval and we begin with step 4. Alright, step 4. Next, we're going to be on step 4 tomorrow. And I hope y'all got something out of this. So, thank you for listening. And thank you for helping yourselves. And do this for yourself. Not for me, not for what you listen to and stuff. I hope you get something out of this book. So I hope that God, as you understand Him, will guide you through what we're reading.